Okay, so agenda. I think that Sean wanted to mention two topics, which are extension methods for field creation, I think. And another one was I have closed Skype. Sean, what are the topics you wanted to talk about today? Nothing. Or unmute your speaker. Yes.
Yeah, I just have two things to talk about.
Which are?
One is the community website.
I have extension methods. That's it?
Yeah, that's it. And just apology for not having checked my code flex messages.
Well, we won't blame you.
Thank you.
Sipke has a demo. Who else? No other demo today? Topics. There's a side topic that we started on the mail. We'll see if we have time. Distributed settings cache invalidation. Writing it down, and maybe we'll talk based on the code status that I will start. Everyone seeing my screen? I can see, I can record, that's fine. Are you sure everyone can see? Can someone say if you see my screen? No one can see my screen?
Does anyone else get Sébastien breaking up occasionally?
I can see it.
I see your screen.
Okay. And
yeah, I was just typing that in the IM. But yeah, I heard that breaking up as well.
Okay, I thought it was just me.
Yeah. You want me to restart Link maybe?
Well, now you're good.
Yeah, now you're good. It's just occasionally it just really breaks up, and you just like it just.
If you can wait 1 minute, I will take a headset. It should be better.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm back. So, still the screen. Here, go back in time. This time more stuff has been done. This one I think we saw. This one we saw. We saw because we talked about it. We saw that. Oops. Bertrand working on the deployment branch. Cosmetic changes. It doesn't look like just cosmetic changes. Oh yes, it is cosmetic changes. Okay. Okay. Alias map. So yeah, it is on 1.8x. So Zoltan fixed the alias lookup perf issue, and it seems to work. I haven't seen any. Oh yes, I think there was an exception, but it has been fixed too, so it's great. It should improve it. And you like it?
Oh yeah, it's cool fix.
So your websites will be faster now. especially if you have lots of content and you create content. If you don't create content, you're fine. But if you create content, it should be faster. So this is also related to the change, but it's refactoring the updater so it can be reused. This is a fix to the fix. Beautiful code with code commands and everything. Fixing layer hole. Yeah, this is the localization branch from Nick. This is a new HTML helper to create a strongly typed HTML helper. And he's got a blog post about that, so you can read. And Philip is advertising himself, I assume, on the chat. This is on the translation branch, localization branch, sorry. This is a fix from Stanley. This is a pull request which has been included to limit what is sent into the shape tracing on the client. So this will limit the memory that is taken actually on the client and also maybe on the server side. So it should be actually even faster and take less memory. And actually fix some memory exception, out of memory exception. Is Stanley here today? He's always here. This is again from Stanley, fixing the command line parser, and I think you explained yep, if you want to pass an empty string as a parameter in the command line. Fixing warning because of unused variable, so remove the unused variable. Nick's translation branch. You will have to give us a summary of what you've done in the translation branch. Localization branch, sorry, Nick.
Okay.
Fixing comments email can sensitivity. Yes, so you could not create a comment with an email having uppercases. Okay, so I fixed it. Now it's allowed. I also accept uppercases.
This will actually make Orchard Enterprise ready, because in enterprises you use uppercase emails sometimes.
Yeah, because as everyone knows, Orchard is not enterprise, not an enterprise CMS. Go figure why, but it's not. Because our Polish and Hungarian developers and contractors are too cheap. We need more, Western Europe and US very aggressive price, expensive prices for our consultants, and this will make Orchard enterprise ready.
Sébastien, after the meeting, I will suggest you a place where to go. Okay?
Fixing profile performance. What is that? I did it. Oh yes. Yeah, the thumbnails, the profiles from the media were not cached correctly because of an encoding of the path. So sometimes it will not be cached based on, well, let's say all the time. So it should be faster. This in 1.x, based on the Christian feedback and the article he pointed us to, the SQL connection in 4.5.1 automatically does retry, and also by default. Okay, you can change in its variable, in its settings, you can change the number of retries to do, and also how long is the timeout for the connection before it retries something. And the defaults are 10 seconds and 1 retry, but it can be changed, and I think by the connection string. So what I did is just remove the specific SQL connection we were using with an Hibernate, and we are just using the standard one now because it handles a retry locally and on Azure too. Sébastien, are you sure NH they'll link to 4.5.1? So I think you made the same comment on the Codeplex forum. The issue is, well, the reason is that because we are running 451, it will use the SQL connection from 451, even if an Hibernate is compiled against 40. It's loading 451 as the CLR. And yep, so it will use the correct SQL connection for sure. And a good and to be sure, just try, because we target 451, it will use 451. So for instance, if you take the code right now and you say SQL connection dot, you will see the properties of the SQL connection and it will work. We are targeting 451, and even in the web config we say we target 451, so it will use the GAC version from 451. So this is from Sipke on the layouts and the forms. This is Nick on localization. Lombic removing unused dependency. Same thing. Then a pull request, bporter. Yeah, I did. You know, Nick, I saw you took it yesterday or this weekend. It was marked as good to go. So you took it, that's fine. I'm just considering if we should do that. So yeah, that's fine because it's in the factory itself. There is nothing to do with second level caching or syscache being present, but it's some second level caching code. It's.
I wasn't too sure about it myself, to be honest.
The only reason I think it's good is because we are on a session factory and not like syscache DL.
Yeah, totally.
And because even if you don't have syscache, it should be fine.
It seems like a bit of an odd place to put it as well. So I don't know. I assumed that I just missed the meeting. I thought I'd do some.
That's fine. We'll keep it. It fixes the issue with syscache, so we'll keep it. Prevent creation of a tenant if that already exists. Also PR in the command and in the controller. I'm skipping everything that Sipke and Nick are doing. Nick will explain what he did and Sipke will demo it. Unless Nick wants to demo it too. Fixing migration isolation. Oh yeah, this one. So Stanley found a bug which was pretty critical actually. If you have a change set before yesterday on 1.8x and you try to do a migration with a new update from whatever, it won't work. So the new value will be assigned but never saved. The issue was based actually on a fix that has been done a few weeks back about session management. There were some issues with disposing sessions that we fixed, and this actually fixed it so well that it shows now some other issues in other parts of the code. So one issue was the data migration manager, which is creating a new transaction every time there is a migration which is executed. And the require new is actually done after some data has been loaded. But because we require a new transaction, the session is cleared now, as it should be, and the previous data is no more tracked. So it was modifying an object which was not tracked and thus not serialized by an Hibernate. So now the transaction begins before we read some code. We read some data. And by the way, I changed that when I refactored the session locator. I'm sure Christian will have some time to look at the code. Oh, I'm missing something interesting in the chat.
Not really.
Okay. So I refactored the session locator, so there is no more a iTransaction local variable or a cancelled variable because they are actually handled directly by the session. So the new code is that, let me show you, see lots of red, meaning lots of things have been removed. Crazy. So now when a new session is created here, an ensure session, so the session is acquired, and then we say begin transaction with the level of the transaction, and this will assign the transaction property of the session object to the new transaction. So we don't need to get a variable on that, and it will start it. Okay, so here when we dispose the session, we can check the transaction if it was rollbacked. So we don't need the cancel variable anymore. We can use the was rollbacked, and then we can say if it was not rollback, we can commit it. Okay. And when I say was rollback, the transaction.rollback was called, which is done here. When you say cancel, we say rollback. And then finally, even if the commit through an exception, we close the session, dispose the session, and assign it to null, so that the next ensure session will create a new transaction and a new session. And also, I think that Stanley is mentioning in the chat that this code cancel can, through an exception, if you call cancel directly before calling demand, you might have a null transaction or a transaction not initialized exception. So we just need to add some safe logic here to say if there is no active transaction, we don't have anything to roll back. Okay, so there is nothing to do when we cancel a transaction which doesn't exist. And yep, and this is better code actually. Simpler code and better code, in my opinion.
Can you simply use this with the code from Windows 8.1 basically? Does this need anything in Hibernate or .NET 4.5.1 or something?
I don't get the question.
Okay, so does these fixes rely on something updated in Hibernate?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is, I think, the correct way to use the transaction property and the session property.
Okay, so it was just nobody knew how to use Hibernate.
Well, we used it correctly, but the code was really complex to do what we were doing. And now it's simpler, but it does actually the same thing. It's just refactored, and we are using the transaction property of the session instead of these two variables. That's about it. Yeah, and also you see we had here answer session, and then begin transaction was not in this code but in another method. And when I look at some blog posts, they say create a transaction as soon as you get the session. Okay, so nothing is done between them. And the same thing, when do we close or dispose the values and things like that. So that's better. And I did the last fix this morning. Don't analyze username as index. I saw that. By chance I found it. So when we save the author, it's a technical value, so we should not analyze it. Okay, we don't analyze the username, we just store it. So when we search for it, we search it as a whole. So if your username has some uppercase or spaces, we don't care, we search it as a whole, the full string. And I'm currently working on another issue which actually, this is a very interesting, and we need to talk about it. I'm working on so my initial goal was to fix, I think, what is a new issue. It's that when we create a new page or new content, but let's say a page, and we just give a name and hit save. Let me explain it differently. Let's say you want to publish later some content. So you create a page, you set a title, and you define the publish later date, and you hit publish later. What's happening today is that it assigns a creation date of the current date. And when it's published later, the creation date will be yesterday or today, and not in 2 days. So it's not reassigning the new publication date to the creation date, which it used to do. And so that's a bug. And while I was trying to fix that, I found some oddities in the code, but also when I debugged, I found that, let me show you. In the driver. No, this one. Yeah, this one. No, in the driver. Yep, here. Here it's supposed to, if the creation date is the same as the version creation date, it's supposed to leave the editor blank, let's say, as a shortcut, okay? But it's not letting the editor blank. It's assigning a value, because this value is different than this value in terms of milliseconds. So first I checked the CommonPart handler, and I saw when it was assigned that it was not using UTC now, okay, but it was using UTC now, well, clock.utc now at some points, and every time it's called it's a different value, so maybe by the millisecond it will be different. And I fixed that, but there was still an issue. The issue was that this value had milliseconds and this value didn't have any milliseconds. The difference is this value is saved in the infoset, okay, and the other one is saved directly in the record. But the record is a date time, and in SQL Server and SQLC, date times don't have the same precision in milliseconds as a date time in C#. But in the infoset, the precision is perfect, which means when we assign the values, the variables with the same value, and they are stored, it's stored correctly in the infoset, and incorrectly it loses some precision in the database. And then when we check the values, they are different. And it thinks that someone has assigned a creation date, but no, it's just the database and the infoset have different values. So that's the issue I'm working on right now, and there are multiple solutions. First, to use DateTime-2 in database, but SQLC doesn't support DateTime-2. So if we use DateTime-2 and not in SQLC, the bug will still be in SQLC. So right now, the only solution I have found to work everywhere is to do that, is to remove the milliseconds part in this specific case. So when we save the creation date and publish date, we lose the milliseconds, because it was doing that actually because of SQL Server before, and now we have to force it because we are using infoset. No, SQL Server doesn't store milliseconds. Well, they store it by the precision of 30 milliseconds or 3 milliseconds, not per millisecond, so they are truncating it. And yep. And you can use DateTime-2 in SQL Server, it will fix it, but there is no DateTime-2 in SQLC. So we can work with DateTime-2 and force it to use datetime on SQLC, but there will be a bug in SQLC. Okay. Yeah, I'm removing, this is what I'm doing right now, removing the milliseconds part by code.
So I'm just having a quick look, and they're saying that for SQL CE you need to use an nvarchar 27.
Yeah, if you use an nvarchar, then we need to store it also in the infoset as an nvarchar, or to convert it to a datetime when we look it back. And when you do some sorting, you need to use it will use strings. That's no, you don't want to do that. And we break everything, and we do all the migration to convert the datetime to nvarchar. No, you can't do that.
Okay.
We can drop SQLC, okay, but no, we don't want to do that. So right now we have to, well, take that into account that before 1.8, the database was stripping the milliseconds. So it's not a worse issue than it was 6 months ago.
So this is not a bug, but a feature.
Now the feature is to remove the milliseconds. I don't like it, but it was the case before, and because we're using infoset, there's an issue now.
Why are we not storing the version date times in the info set?
Sorry?
Why are we not storing the other stuff in the info set? Why are we storing it in the date time?
Well, it's no, this will still be an issue. Because the first time you read from a database, it will take the value from a database. And what could be done is the info set will not have the millisecond part. But again, SQL Server is rounding the value to 3 millisecond steps. So, or maybe the 230 millisecond steps, something like this. So we need to have a very specific value and know what value it is. So we need to force it by removing milliseconds. And this is happening here. This is an issue here. Okay, if you take another record which will save, I don't know, your birthday, you don't care. Okay, that's fine. But here we need to be sure of the value because we check the equality of the values to add some behavior. Meaning, if you change the value, then we assume that you want a specific creation date, then we need to set it. Otherwise, it's the default one, meaning, oh, there is no specific creation date. And this impacts the publish later. And this is a different issue than Bertrand mentioned earlier in the chat. Can we change the precision of the comparison instead of changing the precision of the evaluation? That's a good idea. That might be a better idea, actually. There will still be some discrepancies between the database and the infoset, but it's less hack to do. +1, yep. Sean is the man. Okay, +1. Even if it's a bad solution, everyone agrees on the bad solution. That's not that bad solution. Cool. Okay, let's do that then. It's better, it's simpler actually. I just have to change it in one place, and I can put a comment to explain for later readers why we don't check the milliseconds. I say please watch the meeting from today. Good. So this is about it. Then Sipke, Nick, you want to talk about your changes?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to show my screen? I'll just show the history.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay. Hold on.
Do we need to see the full history or just what you changed?
Just what I changed, just the history. So Sébastien, you're recording, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you tell me when you can see my screen.
I can see.
Okay, cool. So from last week, okay, so what's this one? Right, let's start here. Okay, so I had someone, I've got someone doing a little bit of testing around this because they have to deliver a RTL site in Israel, and they took this branch and they were So the first thing they ran into was that I had this wrong. Can you see the not sign? So I fixed this so that it actually doesn't run on every single request, and just runs when you actually have it in the layer rule. So that was the culture rule provider. Next, I was setting the ID to be the name. So it's now the ID is the ID and the name is the name. That was in the culture selection file, which actually gets superseded later on. I then decided to take a look at the way the I was having a few issues with the localization controller and driver. The main issue really was in the handler, though the handler wasn't wrong, but it was actually highlighting an inconsistency in the way the culture is being assigned to a content item. And the reason why that is, if I scroll down, I'll show you, is because what happens is that the original code actually played a little bit of a trick on you. What it would do is it would create a content item, do a bunch of stuff, and then cancel that content item. So, well, it would create a new one, and then it would do some stuff, like building an editor, because the editor requires a new content item, and then it would roll everything back. And then it would return the view. So instead of doing that, we actually just use a new, and you build the editor and return the item. That's not storing anything in the system, but it does what it was meant to do beforehand. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff in here which wasn't really needed anymore. If I scroll down, the post as well, I rewrote the logic in here, just made things a little bit cleaner. I also fixed the issue to do with culture equals null being assigned. We didn't need that anymore, because what happens is that the culture is no longer assigned in the controller, but is actually assigned when you do the update editor, which is what we really should have been doing in the beginning. So now it's consistent. So if you do the work in the driver, you actually see the work being done in the driver, rather than it being done in the controller and a little bit being done in the driver and the handler blowing up. So that was nicer. The other things I changed were that I got rid of so there's some inconsistency in the way the views were being set up. We had a add localization view model and an edit localization view model. So now we just use the edit localization view model, and I got rid of the culture selection in favor of a cleaner version of, because remember, now we're using the driver, we can do that. So it's just a much nicer version of the localization content translation edit file. So there's just a little bit of if statements in there, but it's much neater and works really well. The next one, so I'm gonna move on from this one because this file's actually deleted. So I'm just gonna keep moving up. So this was a fix to RTL. I'm just getting feedback from the person that's doing some work, doing some QA on this branch. The next is just a little bit of cleanup. I don't know if anyone has ever seen this before, but there's actually an action on the create method. So I just decided, instead of doing individual lines, I would actually use the overload for the initialization of the content item, which is quite nice. Next is some perf improvements. Not really too sure. So it's not really much of a perf improvement, but it first checks to see if a content. So this here was added by Sébastien a while ago, has translation group. First, it sees if there's an ID, and if there's an ID, then it actually goes and gets the master content item. So this is actually a lazy field. So it goes and gets it, obviously, if it exists, which is nicer than just going and getting it and returning null. So that's a little bit quicker, and also just a little cleanup here to say, have I got a translation group? I just thought that was a bit nicer rather than just checking for null. Again, that's lazy. Next one is I came to a realization during the week that I didn't like my culture picker. So what I've done is I've split it between admin and UI. These names have changed, so don't hang up too much about that for now. Hold on a second. So what I've done is, I've just split it up. So the admin culture picker, if I go down, you don't need to see all the code. If I just go to that, so both are run on selectors. So the admin and the front end culture picker are run on selectors. The admin one gets a IEnumeral of iCulture provider, and iCulture provider is just at the moment you've got a browser one and a cookie one. So when you hit the admin screens for the first time, it will use your browser culture provider, and every subsequent time unless you actually change your culture. And then if you come back to the admin screens, it will use the cookie to which is set when you change it, which is quite nice. The front end culture selector uses the content that you're viewing. So for example, if I go /IT, at the moment what would happen is that you would be viewing an Italian piece of content, but your current culture wouldn't be Italian, which doesn't really make any sense. So what this does is it actually says, well, if I go and view an Italian piece of content, then my current culture is Italian. I'm still not 100%, I'm still not sure about this, so I'm still working through the front end culture selector. But I think it's a little bit nicer. Not sure what I changed here. I just removed an empty class called culture settings. The next is I then deleted the front end culture selector, but hang tight because I actually put it back. Hurrah! So it's actually now back, like a magic trick. So the front end culture selector. So as I said, you have a front end culture selector which changes your culture based on your content, but also the selector itself doesn't really do anything. It just redirects you to a page of a particular culture. So what it does is it just goes and gets the home page and gets all the localizations for the home page and spits out a list of URLs for you to go to the individual localized home pages. I'm still not sure that this is the right thing to do. I think maybe we should go to the piece of content, but we can work on that. That is me. Questions? Almost done.
So can we ship this with 1.8.v next or 1.9? How big of an impact all this is and how well it works?
Well,
one of the next new features, breaking changes.
It will go, well, luckily there's actually not really any breaking changes. That's the best thing about it, is I haven't changed any interfaces, so there's not breaking changes, there's just new features.
Oh,
So-
you've changed so many things. So many new features.
There are new features, but there aren't any breaking changes.
There are so many new features that you don't know what you have broken.
Well, yeah, maybe. Okay.
So it's one
But
that
it will go on. It will be 1.x. It won't be 1.9. It won't be 1.8.
It's a branch. If you want to try to rebase it on 1.8 on your own branch, fine. But
Totally. So I've got a bunch of people testing it already. Obviously, where I work are using it, and they haven't had any problems yet. And I have someone in Israel also putting a site that's actually in RTL on it. So hopefully things will come out of that. If anything, obviously 1 or 2 bugs have already come up, but and I fixed those.
yeah, let's use it on some Greek people. We don't care.
Well, we have a Greek site built in about 2 weeks, so we'll find out whether the Greek works as well.
Urban IT is Greek, so that's why I was mentioning that. He's on the chat.
So yeah, that's me.
Cool, thank you.
No problem.
Sipke, can you do the same thing in half the time?
Oh yeah, this is really a
Right.
small thing. Yeah,
Just
watch
showing
me.
demo.
Short, small demo. Primarily, I would like you guys' feedback. Let me show you what I have.
I can give you, it's bad.
Yeah, I need to
You need to
know
work on
how
that.
it- yeah, sure. So tell me how to make it good. It was
What
based
you
on
should-
your idea. Actually, I stole your idea and I implemented it.
So it's good.
So, well, we'll see.
Okay.
So let me know when you can see my screen.
Nick is sad. I don't know why.
I'm not sharing.
You're sad.
Oh,
Why are you so sad?
I'm
That's-
not feeling very well.
But that was great work on the localization.
Yeah.
It's really needed.
It's loading
I
for
think
me.
I think we should actually include it as
I
one
can
end,
see.
because localization currently it's not much anyway. Okay, you can see. So I've been working on the layouts module and also on the dynamic forms module. And as I was working on the forms module, I was implementing fields like the current IP and current username fields. But since we already have a hidden field as well, which is tokenized, we could use tokens as the value of that hidden field and have the same functionality. So we could get rid of the IP address field and username fields, for example. And then Sébastien came with the idea to, maybe we need some sort of hierarchy or some sort of templated fields. I call them blueprint elements. Currently, I didn't want to add a new menu item, so I added it here to the content definition. I'm not sure if it should be there. I think on the one hand it's nice because we don't have to add another menu item. On the other hand, it's not content.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, let me show you. So here we have blueprints, and a blueprint basically it's just a element. You can choose a base element really. So for example, we can choose text to be the base. And we can say this is our company name. And we can specify category. I'll show you where this appears, where this is used. This is our company name. Now we can use this element. Now we have a new element called company name. So if we go to our layout.
I think I see.
Yeah. So here we have all the custom element, the blueprint elements grouped by their category. In this case, we have a single category called business. Now we can choose this element, and that will
So
appear here.
is it the reusable content I was talking about? Like to be able to reuse the same content
Yeah.
across different pages where you want to use that? Okay. Maybe I missed this explanation, but this is what I intended actually. So let me rephrase it for everyone. The idea is that when you have a website, you might have some content, whatever it is, images or HTML, table, whatever it is, some content that you want to reuse over in the website, like in 2 different pages, or one in the menu and one in the navigation and one in the right section. I don't know where you want to use it. But it's not a widget because the placement is really specific. It's not like based on a rule. It's like, oh no, here I want it there and there I want it there and so on. So the idea is to have reusable content, and you just edit the content once and you place it where you want, and obviously
Exactly.
with the layout module.
What's the difference between that and a template? Why can't you do that in the template and then place the template?
The template is for you to choose a layout, and for instance, if you place some content in a template, it will be always in the same position, okay, in the same section. But reusable content, you can drag and drop it where you want in every page. On the left, on the home page, on the right for the about page, in the menu for I don't know, what another page, and so on.
But I thought a template can also be, it's just a snippet of something, right? So maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Well, no. Well, why would you create a template? Okay, template. I see what you mean. Like the templates module with some
Yes.
the shapes. Why not? You could have an element in the layout module which will just display a specific shape based on the name. So that would work too.
Yeah.
That will work too, actually. Zoltan will comment on that. Zoltan, can you comment on the business, on the blueprint thing? I want you to say a specific comment that you are the only one to always say. So
Probably you know better what I want to say.
I wanted you to say, is it a content item?
Well, of course it is.
Is it?
No?
I don't know. Sipke, is it a content item?
No, it's not a content item.
You see?
It doesn't have to be. Layout itself is a content item, but the elements aren't content. And
No, but I mean the blueprint. What?
oh no, the blueprint.
Exact-
It's oh no, blueprints are stored as records. No, not content items. There's no need
Okay.
for them to be content
And
items.
any reason why we could not use a temp, as Nick is suggesting? Why we could not use templates for that? I know there is no category or.
Well, what do you mean? Do you mean instead of basing a new element on an existing element, you would just create a layout and then use that as elements?
What do you mean by basing on an existing element? I missed this part.
Oh, okay, so look at this. When we create a new blueprint element, it's just an element that we're creating on the fly, but
Okay.
it's going to be based on an existing element.
So element inheritance. So if I take, for instance, paragraph, you show the editor of a paragraph?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. No, it's better than templates. You see, Nick? You can take-
I missed that part.
This is good. Like if you take the media element, you can define what media
Exactly.
it is and reuse it over and over. That's exactly what I thought about. Thank
That's,
you,
for
Sébastien.
example, yeah.
I'm great sometimes, but I forget about it the day after.
Yeah, don't worry. I write down all
Thank
your
you.
great
Thank you
ideas.
for
and I
reminding
just
it to
take
me.
them and
Awesome. I love it.
get away with it.
I love it. So yes, and the idea I told you, I remember it was 3 weeks ago or something like that. So the idea was to create a library of reusable content for a specific customer. So let's take, for instance, just by chance, let's take One Stop. They have lots of customers, and for a specific customer, they will create a library of reusable contents and assets that are editable and that they can pick from when they want to create a new page.
Yep.
You see? George,
Exactly.
you agree? You like it? Just for you.
Are they going to be called? Are they elements or are they snippets?
So we didn't use the word snippet at all. I was calling it snippets, if you remember, before Sipke started his module, and then he suggested elements, and I was like, okay, that looks fine. And I think this is also what some other WordPress modules are using.
Yeah, and the one-stop layouts module uses also the word elements, and we do have snippets, but in this module, snippets are razor files that are used as snippets, and so we have a snippet element, if you will.
Nice. Very cool.
Thanks. So okay, so do you guys agree that this setting could stay here, or should we introduce a new menu item? Or should we change the name? I'm using the name Blueprint.
What about content blueprint?
It's not content.
First,
really.
well, it's not content. I thought it was content.
It's not a content item.
Yes,
So
but it is content.
yeah, it's an element.
My question is more about the location right now. Here, in content definition, no, that's more content. It should be a content tab maybe, but not a content definition tab.
Did we change the name of content definition? Maybe.
No.
Generic.
Well, we changed it last version. We created a new admin item so that it's not in content because it was actually definition, and now you're putting content into the definition. So no, it should be in the content if it is somewhere like this.
Well, yeah, it's more of a definition, really.
Well,
it's a library here. You maintain
of
your
content,
library of
yes.
reusable.
There is the inheritance part, but it's a content. It's not a definition.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that's
I don't
very
instantiate it. These are instances of content. So.
That's a good point. Okay, so maybe we do need to add a.
So it's better in content
item.
first. Then the question is, how do we call it as a tab, or is it actually another first level admin link and not a content thing? I don't know.
I don't know whether we want to pollute the admin menu with it. I think it needs to be a tab. I think content definition is the right area.
Bertrand will say you don't care because you have the content tree, but right now we don't have it yet. So when we'll have it, there won't be any more questions about that. Tab is fine with me.
Okay, so tab is fine. The question is under what?
I don't know. I don't even know if it's fine with me because right now what do we have as tabs? We have the content tab and the search tab. So it's really for browsing the content.
I don't want it. I don't think it should go in there. That doesn't. To me, it doesn't seem right.
On the left, you mean?
It doesn't seem right in the content tab. It seems right in content definition.
I agree.
No.
It doesn't seem right to have it here.
You're so wrong, guys. I don't know why. You need to convince me. I know sometimes I'm really opinionated and I think you're just stupid people. But then I change my mind and I say, why? Sorry, I was a stupid and you were the clever ones. But here, right now, I think, no, it should be content and not content definition. Unless you convince me. But
Can the end user create them?
yes, that's the goal. No?
So
Well,
why not
that-
put them under new?
Yeah, well, that's the goal. Yes, not. Yeah, there are two goals. Users could create it, but also the dev could predefine some library. Well, yeah, they are editable. It could be new, but it's also not just new. It's also editing. It's a library. That's why I think having a left menu link, a main menu left link, would be cool because we can list them, edit them. That makes sense to me. It's what we do for everything.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Look at blogs. We don't have a blog tab in content. We don't have a taxonomy tab in content. We don't have a media tab in content. We don't have a tags tab. Whatever. Look at the left side, and you will see everything is the same.
My only thing to it would be then I think the name base where you've got the orchard.layouts.elements. That might be a little bit unuser friendly. Maybe call it a paragraph rather than the full name or something.
Paragraph? What do you mean?
A display name in the. Lilan, you want to talk to say what you think? Because he's part of the biggest e-commerce and CMS platform here in the list. We should listen to him.
Yeah.
It's no more one stop now. It's big commerce.
Stop it. I shared some comments in the messages. What does an end user really understand of content versus content definition, which I think is part of what Stanley's point was there. And the problem that you're trying to solve for is the admin, right? It's an admin layout user experience issue. So you're trying to figure out how to make it something that makes sense to end users. So it's more of a problem we need to solve from a theming or from a tree perspective than hiding it in a tab because we don't know where to put it appropriately.
Yep. And that's why also we don't want it in content definition because it's not administrative, it's content management. Well, I will put it on the left.
Yeah, so, okay, for the time being, I'll put it on the left.
Maybe element blueprints is really, do you say that in English, enigmatic? Or do you say that in English, Bertrand? Bertrand, enigmatic. Ilan,
Yes.
yes, it's English too. Good. So
Nick's comment. Well, you don't like the word.
yes, you can
base.
hide it with roles. You make a role, George. That's the yeah. So if you don't want people to be able to edit or create some, you just provide your own library and that's done.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. I know what to do.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I've talked about this for a long time, and now we have it. That's awesome. It suits very well in the layout module. I like it, and we'll have also a widget for sure based on that, so we can place these contents as a widget based on rules.
Yeah, we can because we have the element widget.
Yep, that's
so-
beautiful. It's like a big Orchard is like a big puzzle, and all the pieces come together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so time's running out. Maybe we can discuss that final topic.
Yep. Thank you,
about-
Sipke.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
And could you please finish this module
It's done. Really.
before Orchard 3.7?
It's pretty much done. The only thing I'm not too happy about is the UI. You know, it needs to be
Abhishek,
cleaner.
I see you. So Abhishek is so yeah. Thank you, Sipke, because the time is limited. So Bertrand was suggesting that we give commit rights to the documentation to Abhishek. Apparently, Bertrand has been accepting lots of pull requests from Abhishek, and he's the main contributor of the documentation. So maybe we should. Bertrand, something to add? Abhishek? Zoltan, we don't care. Okay.
What is given can be taken away. +1.
Yes. So +2. So, oh, Zoltan has a vote? No, do you have a vote, Zoltan? I'm not sure. +1, +1, +1. It makes a +5 then if Bertrand says +1, 5 out of 5. So we can do that. You want to do that, Bertrand?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to reconnect for the fourth time because Link is a piece of shit.
Beep!
Yeah, we put in the agenda changing it, by the way, but that's for another time. Yeah, essentially I've been merging lots of pull requests from Abhishek, like probably several a week and sometimes several a day. So, I mean, the contributions are of excellent quality, and most of the time I just press the merge button, and that's about it. I don't have anything else to do, so I'm very confident that the contributions are going to continue to be of that high quality. So let's do it.
Might be also a topic to mention next week's what has been done on the documentation, if there is something of value and consequent. No, this is not English. Conséquent. Bertrand. Conséquent.
Of consequence?
Substance.
Oh, substance. Substantial. Thank you, Ilan. You speak French better than Bertrand. Or English, I don't know which way. Yeah, so maybe we should mention the changes of the documentation during the meeting. Yep. If they are substantial. Thank you.
So everybody agrees? Everybody who has a right to vote agrees?
We said +4, and with you, if you agree, it's +5.
Okay. I do. So
Great.
I do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Abhishek. Honestly, I don't look at the documentation, so I don't know what you did. But I check the change sets. Great. Am I missing something? Oh, 2 topics from Sean. Sorry, Sean. Sean has started some discussion on the forum about some extension he had done, or some ideas, to create fields from the migrations. Today it's really cryptic. There is no documentation, and you have to look at the forums and blog posts to know how to create a field in the migration, and also you need to look at the code to see all the strings you can use. So he was suggesting to create some extension methods on the content definition manager, or maybe I suggested on the forum, I don't know. So we could have those extension methods for each of the fields.
Yeah, you mentioned it after I just posted them as helpers, and I think what I need to do is just figure out how to contribute a patch and then just
create a fork on Codeplex with a branch,
Yeah.
and you do that, and you can create a pull request, and then on which we can comment on and see the evolution.
I'll just do that then. So
Okay, good.
complete a report, and then just saying that I'm going to start continuing development on the community website because I have
Thank you.
between jobs.
I know the best thing to do is to take responsibility, do whatever you think is right, and it will be better than whatever we can do.
Cool.
It's just about finding time. And I've seen your work, that's impressive, on your
Thanks.
website. Great. Okay, yeah, documentation, contributing patches, that's exactly what you need to do. It has been updated recently. And yes, it's easier on GitHub, but we have to do with what we have. Okay, cool. It's about time. Anything else, anyone? It was a great meeting.
Well, we didn't discuss the cache manager.
The what?
You had something on your agenda about caching, distributed caching.
Yeah. I would suggest we talk about it offline, like we started, and because we can explain the result of our discussions at next week meeting.
Okay. Do you want to do that
because it can take too long.
later today? Yeah, that makes sense.
Continue,
Maybe later
yeah.
today.
We can continue our mail discussion. We have included Bertrand, myself, and Zoltan. If someone wants to join, we can make it a public discussion.
That sounds good. Okay, let's do that then.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thanks
guys.
everyone. See you on Thursday or next week.